Hello there, welcome to my short Lucian guide. In here, I just want to teach you guys from the champion select on what to do. Generally speaking, you wanna ban Draven, Kalista or Samira. More so Draven or Samira because Kalista is pretty much underpicked. Now from champ select itself, just to be clear, generally speaking, these can be your runes. Sometimes you could change Coup de Grace, of course, with arguably the anti-tank rune, but that's pretty much it. But you can also go for a first strike 3 in case you have specifically a Milio or Nami in your team. That's of course gonna be your first strike angle. Now aside of that, beside Lucian and Milio, what kind of supports does Lucian like? He generally likes Alistar and Nautilus. In some case scenario way more than a Milio or a Nami, even though they are good supports. Now also note, let's go through the basics of Lucian. So one thing that you have to understand that your passive is as strong as it looks like, but it's especially important to get buffed first by your allied Lulu or whatever enchanter you may have. But note this also procs on CC or if people are basic attacking on your W, right? So that's pretty much his passive. It's as strong as it looks like. And it also can store up to 4 shots. Now let's move to Lucian's Q. Now this is a very consistent ability, and of course its cast time will decrease per levels, decent AD scaling of course, low cooldown. Now often your goal in lane is quite simple. You don't quite Q people, you Q the enemy champion through the minions, because the Q range itself is not too long. It's similar to your auto attack range, right? But you can actually push a Q through the minions, right? And you can connect the Q without even being in auto attack range, right? Because it's longer than the range you can cast it from, right? Now from the other hand, let's move on to the W, to Ardent Blaze. So this ability does provide you lots of mobility, and it also procs your passive if your allied champions are basic attacking your target, right? Now one thing you have to understand about this ability is that once you use it, generally speaking, you should keep on chasing. You can even use it in the animation of your E, right? So you can use it inside of the animation. Sometimes you want to do it, sometimes you don't. Now when do you want to do it? Usually in case scenarios where you won't be able to do this. You won't be able to do this in every case scenario. So most likely what you want to do is just use it in the animation, look for a Q, and it's all about like sidestepping, right? So for example, if you want to engage, the mobility does matter quite a lot. I'm gonna showcase my mobility, right? Basically that mobility matters a lot because with 60 more movement speed, it's way easier to sidestep abilities into, let's say, double skill shot matchups. For example, they have a Azrael with another skill shot champion, so generally speaking, into those type of champions, you won't be able to get your whole combo anyways up to get like all the possible passive procs. So don't worry about losing out one passive proc because you're using your W. That's not a concern. So aim to use W aggressively pretty much when you're engaging, but it's also a decent tool of combining it with your ultimate, right? So usually you want to always W and preferably proc PTA, so it increases your ult damage, but you can also sort of combine it with your ultimate, because the faster you move, the easier it is to get close with your ultimate, right? That's a very important thing to do. Now Lucian's E is interesting, but at the same time is also interesting because you can actually cancel your own basic attack with your E. What does that even mean? Oh, the Namenasus is destroying the tower. So what does that even mean? If you are too quick on using your E, you can cancel your own basic attack, right? I only basic attacked after I arrived with my E, and my W, I used my W, and then I wanted to use my basic attack with these empowerments, but the dash just cancelled my basic attack. So if you are too fast at doing that, if you're too fast at using your E, you're gonna cancel a basic attack, which you definitely don't want to. But there is a benchmark amount of attack speed. For example, if you have Kraken, it's actually kind of hard at that point. Oh, aggroing the big monster, right? So if once you have Kraken, it's actually very hard to actually cancel your basic attack with your own E. Like, it's actually kind of hard to do it once you have a lot of attack speed. The more attack speed you have, the harder it is to cancel your own basic attack, which is a good thing. Let's get back really quick to the base, of course. Let's get back to River. Let me also like wow, this dragon is trying to be annoying there. Okay, so one thing that you guys have to understand about your E, so you're gonna like reduce its own cooldown. It by 1 second if you hit a minion, and by 2 seconds if you hit a champion, right? Now Lucian can use other abilities while dashing. So what does that even mean? You can basically use anything in your Q animation, right? Anything, right? As I said earlier. And so one of the key things that you guys have to understand that often even dashing into walls is a great thing. For example, you can do some tricks like this, which will generally allow you to go for faster basic attack combos or go for shorter E's, right? So even though it looks like it's not manipulatable, the range it is, I could go for a shorter range and I could go for a longer range E. Now generally speaking, when you get Navori and you have Essence River, you should go for short E's in extended combats where you don't need that extra dash range. The reason behind that is quite simple. You're gonna get a lots of E resets, which generally means that it's similar to Kalista. If people played before Kalista will know my point. You're gonna spam this ability non-stop, which generally means that when you're doing a Baron, a Drake, whatever, you need to maximize out your DPS. But if you're constantly dashing around instead of like dashing in one place as much as possible, it will generally mean that you will lose out on DPS, right? Another simple thing about your E, of course, you can get through walls, but I don't think so that's a new thing to anybody. It's a quite little cool thing to know, of course, but I don't think so it's a new thing to anyone. While also a notable feature mechanic of your E is that you can actually, like, as I showed you guys earlier, you should aim to actually just use your W or any of your abilities to get your passive, right? And once you do that, you need to basic attack and then E instantly, so you reduce your own E's cooldown. Let me show you guys. So if I do this, right, this is not the most correct thing to do. Now ideally what you need to do is just to like E when your basic attacks are midair, so you actually get the cooldown reduction on your E. Just watch, right? Not too early, not too late. That's a good thing to know about your E, to not mess yourself up. Now let's go to the ultimate. Now this can get a bit complicated, and this ultimate is again as strong as it looks like. It's just you need to connect those shots to deal lots of damage, and as I said before, preferably you need to proc PTA and push people down low enough if you need that coup de grace, of course. Now as I said before, you can ult and you can E, you can even flash, right? So what does it even mean, Gaby? Now it's really nice that you can actually use your E and your W, right? Combined with your ultimate, right? So ideally you W first, but the great thing about Lucian is that you get to flash without cancelling your ult. So what does that even mean? For example, they have a mean Milio on the enemy team, a generic bot laner. Now you want to ult that Milio and you want to kill the Milio, but the annoying Milio Qs you, but you can actually flash through his Q, right? Does that make sense, guys? And then you can kill him, or a annoying Ash maybe tries to like ult you or something, right? So you can flash, or Brand, right? Another generic bot lane champion, right? So you can just sort of flash through his Q, and that will generally allow you to bypass it and then kill your opponent. So it's really important to know when to use flash as well. While note, you can also like use your E sideways. So for example, if you, for example, generic bot laner, right, let's say like Vayne, you ult the Vayne, let's go to bot lane, right, let's go directly to bot lane. Let's say you ult the Vayne, but usually what they do, they're gonna Q downwards or upwards, it doesn't really matter. You need to match it with your own E in case they do that, so you can actually keep yourself on the track, right? Now let's I think like pretty much I explained like at most like how Lucian's abilities do work. Now let's jump to the build. So lots of people build Kraken Slayer on Lucian at most. It's not wrong, but Essence River is a bit better actually. Now the reason behind that may surprise you. You actually can push out more damage out of Essence River than out of Kraken. While also another notable feature is your R is a bit more spammy, and you can reset your base abilities way more easily, and you have infinite mana. while also you have more pushing power because this item does have a bit more AD and the one hit does apply on towers compared to Kraken, while also it's cheaper and it has a decent synergy with Nabori because having some cooldown with Nabori together generally means you can reset your abilities a bit faster. We can build Kraken, like Kraken is not wrong to have, especially later on. Like this has a very high KD scaling, so even if you get it later on, that's totally fine because there needs to be an armor benchmark where so it really comes down to Lord Dominic's or Kraken, right? And so it's all about like knowing when to go for Lord Dominic's over Kraken. Because Lucian has, as I said, he has a great synergy with Kraken. He has double basic attacks, right? And here's the thing. Often you don't want to like build straight up Lord Dominic's, even though they stack HP. If they don't have insane amount of armor, it's not that worth these days over Kraken, just because the synergy Lucian has with Kraken. So if they have a softer amount of armor, generally like bruisers, you know, that usually build sometimes a plate as seal caps, maybe a death lance, right? Then it's not really worth for you to go for Lord Dominic's yet. Lord Dominic's is just like a super late game item, in my opinion, because there are just simple better options. Even Bloodthirster can be interesting for your ultimate, or Rapid Fire perhaps if you have a Nami, or a Milio perhaps, right? But my simple point is that I think a little bit Lord of Mix might be a little bit overrated. Now, defensive option, definitely shield bow you can go for if you really need that 500 shield. Basically, the builds are just mostly one-sided in these days. In the past, people used to go Gale Force, but nobody just like go these days. I wouldn't ever recommend, honestly. Gale Force, sometimes it feels to be nice in mid lane maybe, but in mid lane people often just go lethality as well, so I'm not sure how to feel about it. Everyone just pretty much like goes for this Nabori build, and I also like personally like it way more because of your E resets. Like your E resets are just like crazy, right? So they're crazy fast in these days, so basically like you can reset an ability in no goddamn time, right? You see how quickly it resets, right? So that's like the great thing about Nabori itself compared to Infinity Edge or other DPS options. Eclipse I wouldn't ever recommend it, even if you wanna go lethality, go Duskblade or Yumus. Some people are thinking of Fitsen now. In the later parts of the game, arguably you could build it. You're also gonna have a it's nice to have some magic damage with Sand and with the passive combined, of course. Generally speaking, I would only recommend it if you necessarily need that MR. It doesn't feel to be bad. Of course, for MR, Mercurial Scimitar is also good if they have champions such as maybe Mordekaiser if he's really overfed, or something like, you know, maybe a QS is enough, of course. Depends, later on you can finish this item, but my point is that in some games I could really easily see Mercurial being builded, but you can also go cleanse, of course, from runes depending on the game. Now Stormrazor, I actually don't know how to feel about Stormrazor. It's not that bad. The movement speed doesn't feel to be bad. It's definitely not that bad. I just don't really see it, generally speaking, on Lucian. I don't really have an opinion about it, that's all I would say. Manamune, interesting. I would go, if you go lethality, maybe you could consider going for it, but it's not really, generally speaking, if you go crit, it's not really your thing. Rounds, Hurricane, is that worth, is that not worth? Not all that much, honestly. Lucian is not that worth. Then usually in late game it's quite nice to have Bloodthirster, but I wouldn't go for it on Lucian if they have a lot of range pokes, such as Serat, for example. So why do I even say that? For example, if Serat Qs you, generally speaking, he will reach that benchmark of you being under 70% health, which generally means you're gonna lose a lot of AD. So if they have long range pokes, because you are so short range, right? Like if they have long range pokes, generally it's a bit unrecommended. It's really nice on your ultimate, that bonus damage. The life steal also feels to be good, but in fights it can fall off if they have ranged poke, like maybe a Jace or something, right? But again, it depends how confident you feel like. The Blade of the Rain King, is that bad? Is that good? How does it feel like? Now, Blade of the Ruined King is a bit similar to Kraken. Perhaps Kraken has a bit more damage when champions are lower on HP, right? Well, also, like, no, it's not that bad. This used to be an old meta item on Lucian. Now, what this allows you to do is just to have some extra stickiness, and you'll find an easy lethal range for your ultimate. Now, it's not generally builded, it's not a bad item, but it's a little bit off meta just because there are stronger item choices such as Kraken or other items that would feel to be good per moment. It's a bit off meta, but it's definitely really nice to have into HP stackers due to your double basic attack mechanic, because later on it will be really easy to get perma double basic attacks all the time. While no, as I said, the slow and the speed feels to be quite good, which will allow you to like finish off someone really easily with your ultimate. So I wouldn't close my eyes to this pork as perhaps as a third item of an option, because sometimes just because of the slow itself, it's definitely interesting in 1v1s, but usually Kraken is your option. Now when it comes to, let's just jump to summoner spells as well, because I don't really wanna like make a way too like detailed guide about Lucian. You know, I was like, I'm gonna do a shorter guide. You know, generally cleanse, you're gonna take it into CC champs. You know, if they have maybe a Lissandra mid, or you have like generally this type of like CC bot laners. You know, like Ashe, right? So into those type of champs, you generally wanna take of course cleanse, but if they have this type of dive in AD carry such as Samira or Tristana, you want to take exhaust to counter them. Now ignite, I don't know how to feel about it. It's just like a cheesy thing, honestly. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. And heal, usually don't take heal on Lucian. I kind of don't like it. Usually like your support should take it, honestly. While noted, ghost is something that Lucian players don't really use, but in my opinion, I'm kind of tired right now. I really didn't sleep enough. In my opinion, it wouldn't feel to be bad if you necessarily need more kiting power to sort of like catch up to reset your E. Then keep on, of course, like your kitings. It definitely doesn't feel to be bad, especially when you ult in a ghost, so it doesn't feel to be bad. It just really comes down to like how many like melee champs do they have that you really badly have to kite out, right? I think that's it for, also it taps into like seal shot champs, so I think that's it for now, guys. Remember, have a nice day.